Andrew. I'm going to let him take it over. And I think we're going to talk about RealScout instead of dating apps today, I hope.
That's right. Although you'd be surprised how much overlap there is in making matches between people and making matches between people in real estate.
I hadn't thought of that. Good point. Okay, go ahead.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's really a pleasure to be here. So, hi everyone, Happy New Year. This is my first presentation of the year, and I've been working pretty hard on a few keynotes that I'm giving. The first one's going to be at Elite Retreat. It's going to be a bonus breakout session on the main stage, I think on Tuesday or Wednesday morning. And then I'm also going to be flying right after that to New York, where I'll be doing a keynote at Inman. And so, one of the things I wanted to do to kick off today's call is just share an anecdote that I heard from Tom Ferry, actually. I was speaking at his Teams event in, I don't know, somewhere, maybe Dallas. I can't keep track. I travel a lot. And yeah, it was Frisco, Texas. And, he was talking about a friend that he has who owns a bakery. And at this bakery, he was telling Tom about how any good bakery should have a whole slew of different types of cookies. You should have chocolate chip cookies and peanut butter cookies, and you always, always, always want to have sugar cookies on the menu. And the reason for that is because sugar cookies are all margin, right? They taste like they have no ingredients. They have no ingredients. It's all sugar. It's all margin. And it got me thinking, what is the equivalent in the real estate business? Like, what is the lead source that you have as a real estate agent or a team lead that is all margin? Not all at once, but yeah, feel free to unmute your mic. What is the lead source that has the highest margin for you in your business? Anyone? Anyone who's brave?
Referrals?
Yes, it's not a trick question. Referrals, referrals, repeat business. Absolutely. And you could just put a blanket statement over that and just say it's sphere of influence. And I'm not sure how many of you read the Teams report, but theteamsreport.com. Mike, if you want to throw that into the chat, theteamsreport.com. That's a publication that Tom Ferry and I co-authored and co-published. It's probably the most comprehensive research on teams in North America ever published. And I'm going to share some insights from that today, and then I'll dive into RealScout. And I promise those two things are related. So yes, the question that I asked is like, what is the highest margin or number one source of closed business for real estate agents and teams? What we learned, and this is not a surprise, is that it is SOI and referrals. Now, just how much more business are people closing from sphere of influence and referrals? It's pretty staggering, right? If you look at this chart, it's pretty wild. I mean, if you're a team of 2 to 5 agents or 6 or more agents, it doesn't matter how large your team is or if you're a team at all. Sphere of influence is where it's at. And what's surprising then is when you ask people how happy they are with their lead nurture systems, how happy they are with the infrastructure they have in place to generate more SOI, to bake more sugar cookies and sell more sugar cookies, they are very, very unhappy, right? If you ask them to describe their long-term lead nurture systems, what you'll find is that 60% of them either have no lead nurture system in place or they have a very basic one. And furthermore, if you ask them, okay, well, where are you nurturing your leads? Like, how are you sending out listing alerts, for instance? The majority of people are doing that through the MLS, which leaves a lot to be desired in the mind of a consumer, right? Consumers are on Zillow and they're on Redfin. And when they get your MLS listing alerts or your IDX website alerts, they're frankly a little disappointed. And to those national portals, which is probably why you still get Zillow links in your text messages and your emails. Everyone with me so far? All right. So, when it comes to how happy people are with long-term lead nurture, it's pretty abysmal, right? A lot of people are a 5 out of 10 on happiness or less. And what's interesting is that when you actually look at the data and you see what tools people are using, the people who are using RealScout, the majority of them are actually a 10 out of 10 on lead nurture. So that's what RealScout is all about. We're going to help you generate more sugar cookies, more, complete 100% margin deals. And that's what RealScout's all about today. So during this presentation, I'm just going to walk you through the agenda because it's pretty straightforward. I want to go over this notion of a database. And if you saw me present at Elite Retreat last year, then you probably heard a lot about this database concept. But many of you think you have a database, but you actually have a database. This is a database of stale or dead leads. And it's just so magical when you can shake leads and deals loose from your database because you already paid for these leads. You already generated these leads one way or another. And it's way cheaper to retain a client than to buy a new one, right? Let me just say that one more time. It's way cheaper to retain a client than to go buy a new lead, right? And a lot of people are filling a leaky bucket. So I'll talk about RealScout and how you can, capture more leads on RealScout, but then how you can nurture them and convert them. RealScout is not a lead gen provider. We just plug into your CRM or ingest leads from your CRM and we nurture them at a higher rate. So I'm going to jump in here. The problem we solve is this, right? I mean, you have this database, you have all these people in your CRM or maybe on a spreadsheet or wherever you keep your leads. Hopefully it's in a CRM. And these people have questions about real estate, right? They want to know what their home is worth, especially with all that's happening in the economy and with the election and interest rates. They want to know what their home is worth and how that's changing. They also want to know what recent sales are happening in the neighborhood and they want to see new listings. The problem is that when they have these questions, they are not going to you, right? When they have these questions, they are going to Zillow, they're going to Redfin, they're going to Realtor.com, they're going to Homes, and that leaves you with a database. So RealScout has been solving this problem for over a decade now. I founded the company 13 years ago. Before that, yes, I did found a dating app. I did found a healthy food vending machine company that got acquired. But really making matches between home buyers and home sellers and the right agent, that's what we do today. And we have over 100,000 customers on RealScout today. We have millions and millions of consumers who are using the platform. And we've won all types of awards and accolades. So I won't go into all of that now, but a lot of the biggest agents and top teams in the country, the Robert Slacks of the world, the Byron Lazines, these are all people who use RealScout and who credit a lot of their growth to our platform. So I want to walk you through what RealScout does today. So first off, how do you get your clients into RealScout? It's a good question, right? I mean, RealScout is not a CRM, but we work with a lot of CRMs. So if you are using, I don't know, Close or MoxieWorks, or many of you are probably using Follow Up Boss, we will integrate with those platforms and we have a sync with those platforms. We also have Zapier, right? So Zapier is a middleware software where you can connect RealScout to all types of different platforms like Lofty or Sierra, etc. And once you have your leads in RealScout, whether they are sellers, buyers, or somewhere in between, we will nurture them so you don't have to. It's really like the easy button, right? You can connect these two products, your CRM and RealScout, and then we'll do the hard work in keeping these contacts warm and letting you know when someone's ready to transact. So the first thing I want to talk about is listings, because I'm sure that in 2025, many of you are looking to grow your listings business. Now, if you've been part of the Tom Ferry network for some time, then I'm guessing you've heard of the ZMA strategy, right? The ZMA strategy where you either, print out a Zillow listing and put a post-it on there saying like, would you consider selling for more, 10% more than this estimate? Or Jimmy Mackin's been talking a lot about, just taking a screenshot of his estimate and texting it to clients. And this is an absolutely phenomenal hook to get a seller or a homeowner to respond to you. But that is a one-time effort and it's a one-time prize. So how do you systematize this? And the way you would do that is through what we call a home value alert. Now, home value alert is sort of like this ZMA strategy, but it's automated and it's scalable and it repeats. And so the idea here is that you'd send out this home value alert and it would say, hey, Maria, Zillow thinks your home is worth 850. This other company thinks it's worth 920. And then guess what? There's a disclaimer here, just like that post-it that sheds a little casts a little doubt. This would actually create some doubt or confusion or curiosity with consumers saying, hey, you shouldn't rely on an algorithm. You should reach out to me for a professional price opinion for a CMA. And of course, it's going to have the recently sold listings in the neighborhood, but it's really just this dashboard that people can come to. Now, there's a few things I want to point out here. First of all, we include the Zillow's estimate, right? Because you have to. Zillow is a verb, and your consumers are going there with or without you. Give them what they want. But the second and most important thing I want to share about this, and this, certainly sets RealScout apart from companies like HomeBot, is that when you have one value estimate on your home value alert, it implies that they should rely on the number, right? For instance, I get a HomeBot email every month as a consumer, and it's for my condo that I have in San Francisco, and it is way off, and it makes my real estate agent look like they lost all their credibility. Or if I believed the number, there wouldn't be reason to reach out to my agent. I feel like I would have the answer. But the reason we use two estimates is because we actually want to create a little bit of confusion, right? We want the consumer to say, okay, my agent is telling me that I shouldn't rely on this number, and also that every algorithm is going to have their own opinion. And so if I want the truth here, I need to reach out to a professional to make sense of the market. So that's a really big win. There's been a lot of people in the Tom Ferry network, both coaching clients and frankly, even coaches who have made the switch from companies like HomeBot or others over to RealScout because they're seeing higher conversion. They're seeing more leads generated. One of those folks is Jason Wright. Some of you may know him if you're in the Tom Ferry community. And Jason Wright got RealScout started. He's in the Tim Smith group. I think it's the top team at Coldwell Banker in the country. And he got RealScout going, and within 24 hours, he had 700 people interact with his RealScout account. And by the 48-hour mark, he had a listing appointment for 3 million. So it was very overwhelming for him. He actually had to hire people so that he can start handling all the inbounds from RealScout. But again, these are people that he already had in his database, right? He has thousands of people in his follow-up boss account. So it was just really easy to connect the two and get things moving. So I want to pause there before we go into buyer nurture. Any questions you have on home value alerts, feel free to unmute your mic or throw it into the chat. All right, well, I'm going to move on to buyer nurture, and these two are obviously closely tied together because buyers will become sellers, sellers will become buyers, and in some cases, buyers are sellers. So when it comes to buyer nurture, the way it works today, and feel free to push back if you disagree, but consumers are largely using Zillow, and agents are largely using the MLS. And the MLS is not a great interface for consumers, right? So a lot of consumers just bounce back to Redfin or Zillow or wherever they've been searching. Now, some of you may have an IDX website, and I'm not going to, name names, but a lot of IDX vendors out there have sort of a watered down basic home search that doesn't compare to the experience that you're used to in the MLS. And so the reason why RealScout's taken off like a rocket in recent years is because we have a direct tie-in with the MLS where we have 100% of the search criteria from the MLS. And the reason why that's so important is that, if you really want this to replace the MLS, it has to be complete. It has to be MLS grade for the agent, and it has to be Zillow grade for the consumers. And that's what we have with RealScout. So for agents, they can log in, they can see all the search criteria they're used to. And then for consumers, take a look at this natural language listing alerts, right? Hey, Kevin, here's some listings that meet your needs, featuring a view of the coastline. Ocean Crest Drive has an in-ground pool and a walk-in closet. So these emails sound like they were written by you, but they were actually written by our software. And because of that, they get just insane click-through rates. I mean, just take a look at these numbers. 16 times as many people clicking through on these emails. And that's going to result in a lot more activity, a lot more leads, and a lot more closings for you and your business. And it's branded for you. It's branded for your team or the brokerage, etc. When people click into these property alerts, they're taken into an immersive agent branded search experience that looks and feels like a national portal, but there are no ads for other agents. It's just a safe haven for agents and clients to collaborate. So that's why people really love it. And there's all types of customizations and personalization. So if you see my session in a couple weeks at Elite Retreat, I'll be talking a lot about what Netflix gets right about personalization and how 80% of all content consumed on Netflix is as a result of their personalization engine. And you want your consumers to have an investment in the product that you provide. So in other words, when you share this with them, you want them to add all their favorite commutes, like their child's preschool and their favorite restaurant, so they can start to calculate the commutes to and from their points of interest. You want them to start making an effort to use the product so that they have personalized results. Now, a lot of you have seen, a lot of buzz around AI. What most people don't realize is that RealScout was one of the first companies to use AI in a home search product. So 8 years ago, we introduced this idea of visual home search, where you can just click to the picture of the kitchen by clicking on the word kitchen, or if you want to see the bathrooms, you can just click on the word bathrooms. Or you can compare 2 or 3 listings side by side, and we will automatically put the kitchens side by side and the living rooms and the bathrooms and the bedrooms side by side. So it's a really beautiful and intuitive way to search for a home. And of course, there's map search, there's school attendance boundaries, there's all types of really intuitive features. The mobile app is beautiful. It looks and feels a lot like what consumers have already come to expect. Um, yeah, you can use your finger to draw a shape on the map and have the pins populate, but you don't have to teach your consumers how to use this, right? I mean, they use the national portals on a daily basis, and this is very much like that. The last thing I want to share with you is, we talked about how to nurture active sellers and active buyers, but what about people who are somewhere in between those buying and selling moments? And this is a huge opportunity. If you could maybe light up the chat box on Zoom and just punch in, no shame here, but punch in how many contacts you have in your CRM or in your database. Just go ahead and throw in the number into the chat box. It's okay if it's 100, if it's 500, if it's 1,000, if it's 10,000. Some of you may have larger databases. But just go ahead and throw that into the chat box. Is the chat box enabled for everyone? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah,
Lydia,
it's enabled.
450. Okay, gotcha. All right. Some people may be a little shy or still working on it. Okay, 450, 350. Gotcha. So you have hundreds, maybe even thousands of people in your database. You may not know where they are in the process. Are they an active buyer? Are they an active seller? Wow, Danny has 1,500 people in Sacramento, right? So what's really interesting about this is, you have all these leads or contacts, but how do you ensure that they stay warm so that when they're ready to buy or sell, you are top of mind? And what we've developed is something called auto nurture. This is what Jason Wright used to get those 700 people to interact with his Real Scout account. But the nice thing about auto nurture is that for any subset of your database, or maybe you want it to be for your entire database, you can turn on auto nurture. And for anyone in your CRM who has a homeowner address, we'll start to send these home value alerts. Because let's face it, if you're a homeowner, you probably want to know what's happening in your neighborhood. You probably want to know what homes are selling for and what your home is worth. If we have any information about, property inquiry address, we'll start to send these listing alerts with the natural language. For instance, if they came in from Zillow and we know they were looking at 123 Green Street, we're going to start to send more listings that look like that listing. And if we know nothing about them, we'll start to put them on a drip that says, hey, Mike, do you want to track your home's value? Do you want to view new listings? And if you forget everything from this presentation, the one slide that you should remember or even take a screenshot is this. The median customer on Real Scout gets 70% of their database to engage within 90 days. 70%. So let me just light up the chat box again. Just to keep the numbers simple here, Lydia has 450 people in her database. So if she had 70% of her database engage with Real Scout, that's over 300 people that are now engaging with her as opposed to engaging with Zillow or Redfin or a national portal. So instead of those consumers seeing ads for other agents, they would actually be seeing you in your image on every single listing, on every single home value report. Lydia has actually one of the smaller databases out there, right? So Gladys has 518, for instance. So really big opportunity here to plug Real Scout in and start generating results. Real Scout has a partnership with Tom Ferry, and so you can get started with Real Scout, for a lower price. Let me see if I can actually pull it up. I'm not usually the one giving these presentations. So let's see here. Yeah, I can actually just put the link into the chat for anyone who wants to give this a go. If you are an individual agent, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and throw this into the chat. If you're a team looking to get started with Real Scout, there is a 20% discount um, for um, for teams that get started through the Tom Ferry partnership. And then I'm checking to see if there's any deals for individual agents because we do have one for, okay, yeah. So if you're an individual agent and you sign up for Real Scout, it's $99 a month. It always is. But typically you get 100 contacts that you can nurture as an individual agent. And the Tom Ferry special is pretty ridiculous. Instead of 100 contacts, you get 2,600 contacts. So you get 26 times the amount of contacts. Now, I think that covers everyone who at least threw their numbers into the chat box. So like even Danny with 1,500 contacts wouldn't have to pay a penny more for Real Scout beyond that $99 a month. But for anyone who is maybe too shy to throw their number in, if you do have a larger database, it's just $10 a month for every 500 contacts beyond that. So feel free to click on that link and make sure you click on it and have it up on your browser before this Zoom meeting ends. But that's RealScout in a nutshell. I think just to kind of close the loop and frankly, like I know Mike and Maria wanted me here today to share a little bit about RealScout. So I'm, maybe a little bit bold and just going right into a pitch on what RealScout is and how it could benefit your business. But whether you use RealScout or use another tool to nurture your database, the one thing that I'm trying to get across in this meeting is that you should focus on those sugar cookies, right? You should focus on the referrals and the sphere of influence deals. It's not to say you shouldn't do other types of advertising, but I think that as you approach 2025 and you think about where you're spending your money, where you're making your bets, it's very easy to get distracted by things like, I don't know, SEO and, Instagram ads. And there may be a place for some of those things, but I'm all about focus. And our customers that are doing the most business just figured out what their superpower is and they double down on it. Do you need an address for this, or is email address good enough? So email address is good enough. If we don't have a physical address for a customer, for one of your contacts, then we'll actually send them down a path of nurture and say, hey, we don't have your address, but do you want to track your home's value? And of course, if they click on that, then we'll ask them for their address. Now, there are other services out there, like for instance, the keynote that I'm giving in Orlando. I'm actually sharing the stage with Revaluate, and the CEO of Revaluate is Chris Dreyer. And that company, as I'm sure you've heard from Tom, because he talks about this a lot, they will add property address data to your contact records. So a lot of people partner with Revaluate and RealScout so they can repair their database and then they can nurture their database. You could do that, but you don't have to. But I'd love to open it up for some questions. There's no dumb questions, and if you thought maybe I covered something already, but you had to, run to the restroom or something, not a problem. Just go ahead and shout out your questions. I'm happy to cover it again.
So Andrew, hi, Danny Betancourt. So just to reiterate, just about for a second. So you had said that it's $99 a month for up to 2,500, 2,600?
2,600. You get a 2,500 bonus, and the account already comes with 100. That's for individual agents.
Gotcha. Okay. So then is that the same promo, or are you going to have a different promo at Elite Retreat?
That is reserved for Elite Retreat. We're just giving you early access to it.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Thank you.
So that's usually
you said no dumb questions.
No, it's a good question, and I'm an open book here. But yeah, we actually we save that usually for our conference special, where it's like you got to sign up in person if you want that deal. But Mike and Maria booked this weeks ago, and I wanted to make sure you had access to the best.
So you don't have to wait for Elite Retreat, Danny.
I got it. Yeah. Okay. Well, then we'll talk about that on Thursday, Mike.
I will see you there. Okay. Anybody else?
Ed is asking, is what's the Tom Ferry link for solo agents? So is that type form? Let me see. That link that I sent you is only for, let's see here. Okay, is that only for
It'll
teams?
work. It'll work for both. I
Okay.
put in the solo agent link if you want to just sign up directly, or if you'd like to talk to one of our salespeople about your particular business, they just use the Typeform link and they'll book a more in-depth demo with you.
Thanks, Alice. I didn't even know you were here. And Alice
Just
is
lurking in the shadows.
So yeah, Alice is on my team, director of marketing. She actually used to run marketing for Jimmy Mackin. So it's a small world.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay, I've got a question. I have input out of the 350, 450 number. I still have an input 2 different farms that are, one's 300 and one's about 150. So I have addresses from the title company. What I don't have is and I know Tom spoke to this on a roadmap trip that I saw last month, the emails and the phone numbers on a lot of them. And so, everything would have to go direct mail, which is like snail mail. So do you know the service off the top of your head, Andrew, that sorts out and gets you the email and phone numbers for all the people?
Yeah, so I don't want to make specific claims about other people's products. I know that in general, that category of products, there's Revaluate. I'm just throwing this into the chat. And there's Smart Alto is another popular product. And you'd have to check with them to see what missing blanks they're able to get you.
Okay, yeah, because I think I couldn't remember the name, and I have to find the notebook that we got there at the function. Cross Country Mortgage did it here at the Omni in San Diego. But Tom did talk about a specific company, and it could have been Revaluate that will do it for pennies on the dollar, so to speak, So
Yeah, he talks a lot about Revaluate on
so
stage.
that was
Talk
probably
about
it. So that's what I got to get in there and get that done. It was one of those got to do things that got, buried with all the other crap in my life.
No problem. I'll actually drop a note to the CEO and let them know that you might be interested.
Yeah, because that makes life just simpler for everything. Then I can send stuff out, you guys can send stuff out, and and I can get rid of command that I use with Keller
No,
Williams.
I started my real estate career at KW, and I was rooting for Command, but I know it's run into some challenges. So
Well, I didn't save something just a little bit ago, and now it's gone. So I have to recreate my email from memory. It's not the first time I've done that. I'm so used to auto save on things that I just assume, because it does on other projects, but not in the emails. So it's like, hey, team, so excited. Start all over.
Any other questions that I can be helpful on?
Okay, wow. Well, Andrew, thank you. And in respect for everybody's time, it is 3:32. So Andrew, it was a blessing. And thank you for having a very fortunate. I know you're a very sought after speaker. I know when I heard one of your speeches and you said that if you had a group, so I thought I'd throw it out there, and I really appreciate you showing up and helping us out. This is recorded, so if anybody wants to go back and watch it, and we'll open it up to the rest of the Team Lango clients. But again, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. I learned a lot. And one last time for any questions. Okay.
It was really a pleasure. And if you don't mind coming out and supporting on my, it's gonna be an early morning breakout session on the main stage in Orlando. Would love to see you in the audience.
I will
What's the
be there for
definition of
sure.
early morning?
I actually don't know. We're still figuring out the timing, but it is a bonus session. So they wanted me to speak, but all the speaking spots were filled. And they said, you know what, we'll open up the main stage and pay our AV team overtime to get you up there. But it's probably going to be earlier in the day. So keep an eye out for your email. We're going to send out a reminder.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. I will be there.
All
Okay,
right.
everybody.
Bye,
Make your
everyone.
calls. Let's go. It's the new year. It's time to set those appointments so we can get a strong first quarter closings.
Let's go.
Okay, let's rock and roll. See y'all.